Books on Tape presents Winning Every Time by Lis Wiehl. Read by Carrington MacDuffie.
Forward. The tired cliché goes, life is hard and then you die. And for many Americans, this is unfortunately true. But it doesn't have to be. You can make your life easier if you do the basics. Get educated, work hard, live honestly. But unless you're a trust fund baby, you'll still have a tough go until you figure out how to successfully handle the inevitable confrontations that life drops on you. It took me decades to wise up, but just the fact that you are reading these words right now means you have an important resource within your grasp. Lis Wiehl's book is a primer on how to incorporate legal skills into your life and win battles without drawing blood. Some of her examples are as simple as convincing a landlord that you are a worthy tenant, but others are far more complicated, like succeeding in a competitive workplace or developing a relationship that lasts. Americans are living in the most competitive society the world has ever seen. There are 300 million of us vying for a piece of that big dream: financial independence, a stimulating career, rewarding interactions with other people. These things are all attainable, but there is a price to pay. How high a price is up to you. Some of the most successful people in the country are degenerates, awful human beings who exploit others for their own gain. You can win that way in the short term, but achieving great things with dignity takes much more skill. You must understand with whom you are dealing and what it will take to get you where you want to go. Only by that kind of understanding can you develop a successful life strategy. Lis Wiehl supplies specific game plans by using the techniques that successful lawyers employ. She is insistent about defining goals and then logically strategizing to achieve them. Here is a woman who, without much help, graduated from Harvard Law School, is successfully raising 2 children, and is succeeding in the most intense of industries, the TV and radio media. So she knows what she's talking about. Therefore, strategy number 1 for you might be to listen up. Read this book slowly and apply each example to your own life. No situation is perfect. Even the good ones can be improved. See if you can use the techniques taught in this book to immediately make things better in your life. Finally, to get the most out of Lis's message, you should keep a chart. Write down the legal techniques she discusses, and then list where they can be used in your life. Make this book a game. Try different strategies and keep a record on how well they work. It might take you a couple of times to perfect the techniques Lis writes about, but that is true with everything you learn. The Williams sisters didn't hit sizzling serves the first few times they picked up tennis rackets. The fun of accomplishing goals is trial and error. If everything was done exactly right the first time, there would be no drama. Life would be dull. Rest assured, this book is anything but dull. It will help you out. If you are disciplined enough to read it carefully, and shrewd enough to figure out the appropriate application to your own situation, you will acquire a distinct advantage in this world. Books are supposed to be written to enlighten. Too many of them fail on that promise. This one does not. Bill O'Reilly, December 23, 2003. Introduction. Fresh out of law school and starting my practice in Seattle, I had finally found the perfect apartment and excitedly told the landlord I would take it. I explained that even though I was just out of school, I would have no problem paying the rent because I was a lawyer and had a job with a great... The landlord's face fell, and he started mumbling about the unit really not being available and that he might have something in a year or so. Knowing how people sometimes, often, feel about lawyers, it wasn't too hard to figure out that he didn't want a lawyer living under his roof. I sheepishly told him I understood and walked back to my car, saddened by my misconception that a law degree somehow made me more trustworthy. I sat in my car and pondered my fate. Having looked at dozens of apartments, I knew this one was right for me and really wanted it. It was a good price, had lots of room, offered a great view, and was an easy walk to work. So I decided not to take no for an answer. I got out of my car and walked back to the landlord to present my case. I explained that I had grown up in the area, I had great references who could vouch for me, and I really liked his apartment. I told him the story of how many apartments I had looked at, and that this was the perfect apartment for me. Then I slipped in the comment that as a lawyer I knew that litigation was the last thing anyone looked for, and that no lawyer wanted to deal with the legal system in her time off. The following week, I moved in. I won my case not by being confrontational, but by expressing my desire clearly, understanding my landlord's fears, and explaining how I was the right person for his apartment. All of us have to stand up for ourselves every day, but too often our personal insecurities, weaknesses, and hang-ups make it difficult to express and attain what we really want. We walk away from rather than dealing with difficult circumstances. We argue conclusions without presenting the premise first. We react with emotion rather than presenting the hard facts. We feel cornered and defensive when we meet up with resistance, and have difficulty making calm, irrefutable counterarguments. In winning every time, you will learn how to employ the skills, smarts, and strategies that trial lawyers use in the courtroom to rise above the helplessness you may feel during situations of conflict at work, in life, and at home. This book will teach you how to take advantage of the valuable set of practices and strategies lawyers use to win their cases. And let's be clear, this isn't a book to make a litigious society more litigious, telling you how to take your neighbor to court because his fence is too high. This is a book about solving problems, everyday problems, using the language, skills, and techniques that lawyers employ during conflict resolution. This is a book to help you win the trials of your life. I grew up as the daughter of a lawyer in a conservative small town in eastern Washington. One day when I was 7, while accompanying my dad to see one of his far-flung clients, he stopped the car as a warning bar lowered at a railroad crossing. As we watched the train barrel by, he told me that the warning bar was something new. He had won a case against the railroad after an oncoming train killed a high school senior on his way home from the prom. The railroad had been negligent by not protecting the boy, and others, with a bar to alert drivers of an oncoming train. My dad used his legal skills to help the boy's grieving parents, and by holding the railroad accountable, he was able to make sure there wouldn't be other people mourning loved ones because of a missing and necessary warning bar. Even knowing about my father's advocacy, for years I viewed the law as a remote, intimidating force. When, much to the surprise of the people in my hometown, I ended up at Harvard Law School, I worried that they were right, that the place might be too rough and tumble for me, and the law too esoteric. Harvard initially overwhelmed me. The tall, heavy doors, those portraits of dead white men lining the halls, not to mention the mind-boggling task of mastering the law's language and techniques. But when it finally sank in that the law is based on cases about real people and their stories, the tools of legal advocacy seemed suddenly clear and extremely accessible. Since then, my passion has been to make the law approachable, understandable, and usable for ordinary people. Advocacy is a part of life, and it doesn't require a law degree. There seem to be 4 ways to approach situations that arise in our life. 1. Ignore them and hope they go away. 2. Assign them to someone else, such as a spouse, colleague, parent, or friend, and hope that this person will be our knight and defend us from our problems. 3. Contend with them irrationally, spontaneously combusting and grimacing at each new glitch. 4. Face our situations head-on, approaching them logically and thoughtfully, with preparedness and thoroughness. It's option 4 that this book will help you master. As a lawyer, I believe that all of us should have access to justice, not just in a courtroom or legal dispute, but in every situation in our lives where we stand to lose something important to us, or when achieving what is fair and right is at stake. Winning every time will show you how to stay in command whenever life makes you feel as though you are on trial, no matter what your role is in the world, and no matter what the context, at home, at school, in the workplace, or in the boardroom. Whether you're hoping to obtain a raise from your boss, convince an insurance claim representative to reimburse your medical treatment, talk your spouse into spending less time watching TV and more time with you, or persuade a business partner to embrace a project you believe in, winning every time will be your guide for truly practical and helpful advice about how to make the case effectively and win it, hands down.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?